Hi guys, welcome to Informer. Please like this video and don't forget to subscribe. I was downstairs in the basement, trying to fix the hole in the air conditioner where water drains out when I heard the phone ring. Natalie was cleaning dishes in the kitchen, so I thought she would answer the call. I heard her talking on the phone from the vent on the second floor. She said, "Hi, Katie, it's been a while. How are you?" I didn't really like Katie. She was a friend of Natalie's from high school, and I always had a bad feeling about her. Luckily, we moved away from Lancaster not long after we got married. I wished it was farther away. Yeah, I thought so too. 8 years went by really fast. What's happening? I didn't like how this talk was going, but I could only hear one person. "Katie, just a sec. Steve is fixing something downstairs. I'll go close the door." I heard Natalie end the call as she walked to close the door. I crossed the basement and quickly picked up the wall-mounted extension phone. "Hello, Katie, I'm back. So, what did you want to tell me?" "Nat, there's a medical equipment conference in Lancaster next weekend, and guess who's coming?" "You're kidding. Both of them will be there." "Both of them. They'll arrive Friday evening and stay the whole weekend." "How do you know this?" "Jared called me this morning and was dying to see you. He asked me to call and see if I could convince you to come to Lancaster for the weekend. It'll just be you, me, Jared, and Martin." I held the cloth at the end of the phone receiver. I really wanted to jump through the phone and grab Katie by the neck. What the hell was she suggesting? I don't know. "Katie, if I can get away, I'd love to come. I'll have to butter up Steve a bit. Once I find out, I'll call you back." "Do you remember how much fun we had at the last reunion when they were here, Natalie?" "You're damn right. I remember. Every morning when I make breakfast for the kids, I can't believe you named that kid Jared." "Why not?" "Steve doesn't know. He thinks Jared is his, even though they don't look alike at all." This conversation was getting worse and worse. I thought back and remembered that Natalie and Katie had relationships with these guys 8 years ago, and Natalie got pregnant with Jared. She pretended the baby was mine and never said anything about the affair. Now Natalie and Katie were planning to meet up with these guys again. "Katie, I'll call you back soon. If I can't stay overnight, at least I can come there for the day. It would be better than nothing." "All right, call me as soon as you find out." After we all hung up, I had some time to think. We had 3 kids. Jenny and Lynn were in high school, and Jared showed up about 8 years ago. The 2 girls are smart and doing well. They study hard at school, and both are preparing for college. Jared, on the other hand, lacks motivation. He's not interested in studying or sports. I like Jared, even with his flaws. Natalie opened the basement door. "How's it going down there?" "Steve, are you ready for some coffee?" "I'm almost done. I'll be up in a minute. I think I'm going to take a shower before doing anything else." After a long hot shower, I sat in front of the TV with the family. I tried to figure out what I was going to do. This wasn't a small mistake that Natalie made and regretted. It was something she planned to do on purpose again. I didn't know if I should stop it and keep things the same or if I should try to fix it. If I chose to fix it, I had to figure out how. I felt silly because in 20 years of marriage, I never thought Natalie could be with someone else. "Steve, I talked to Katie today. She wants me to spend the weekend with her in Lancaster. Is that okay with you?" "No, not really. I'll be busy at work, so as long as my parents can watch the kids, it should be fine. But I have one condition." "What's that?" "Make sure to take your phone in case you need help, okay?" "Thank you, dear. I'll bring my phone and I promise everything will be fine. The Volvo never breaks down, and I can fit lots of things for shopping. I'll probably leave on Friday morning and come back on Sunday evening. Is that okay?" "Sounds good to me. Have fun." Natalie went to the kitchen, and I heard her talking to Katie to confirm their plans for the weekend. She didn't seem worried about cheating or the consequences. I said I wanted to do some work on the computer before bed and would wake up later. It wasn't hard to find the website for the East Coast Medical Equipment Dealers Conference in Lancaster. Everything about the conference was there. Displays, a map, schedules for talks and seminars, and the participants list with their hotel room numbers. Jared Kramer and Martin Blank were in room 411 from Friday to Monday. I found their addresses and phone numbers in Baltimore. I found a company that offered DNA tests by mail. The tests range from paternity confirmation to likely national origins. Most tests cost less than $100. Samples could be taken at home and mailed in with a check or paid for online. I filled out the application forms on the website and paid for 4 paternity tests using my PayPal. After printing out the collection instructions, I gathered everything needed to collect the samples. I printed a mailing label and prepared a padded envelope for priority shipping. I prepared several CD mailers and set aside a stack of blank CDs. Jared and Martin's wives would probably want a copy of the recording of the evening events. I worked at a corporate security consulting firm. My work schedule was flexible, but since I had some free time, I decided to take a week off. Another nice perk of the job was access to various equipment that I could use for gathering information. By that time, I had almost decided that my marriage was over. The fact that she had an affair 8 years ago and made me raise the child was bad enough. But the way she and Katie joked, making me look like a fool, was too much. I couldn't forgive that. Now she was doing it again. This was supposed to end it once and for all. The next day, I collected DNA samples from the children. They thought it was cool. Then I went to the bank and transferred almost all of our savings into a college trust fund for Jenny and Lynn. But I left $12,000 in cash. I set it up so that the trust would be secure from my wife or any cunning divorce lawyer. On Monday morning, I canceled all our credit cards and our shared bank account, and I opened a new account just in my name. I planned to lock the house so Natalie couldn't stay there anymore. I knew she might find a legal way to get in, but I hoped I could sort things out by then. We could deal with our son, Jared, later. Even though he wasn't biologically mine, I still felt responsible for him. I drove to Seymour Schlamp's office. He's been my lawyer since we moved to Reading. He's fair and hardworking, and I trust him. I explained the situation to him as best as I could. He pushed me to make sure there was no chance of reconciliation. In addition to the divorce proceedings, I asked him to contact Jared Kramer and see if he could do something about his son. I offered to pay fella $500 in retroactive monthly child support or have Jared take custody and raise him. The last option for him was to relinquish all rights to Jared so I could arrange for his adoption. I was sure he would agree to the latter. Seymour had everything he needed. I promised to send him photos and audio recordings that he could use. He gave me the office email address and several pre-addressed envelopes for paper materials. Betty Moore was the most annoying real estate agent I had ever met. There wasn't much I liked about women, but she was a hard-working, determined worker. I gave her a list of our house and signed several powers of attorney for her. I told her she would have to get all the signatures from Natalie herself. She laughed and assured me there would be no problems. I told her the locksmith would give her a set of new keys. The best fit for this job was a wireless video camera disguised as a smoke detector. I picked up 2 of them and grabbed 4 bugs as well. I also needed a clipboard, a set of company logo stickers, and 3 laptops. I filled out a replacement request for the faulty smoke detector in room 411 on the company's form. I would fit the computers and all the recording equipment into a regular suitcase. I took a small step ladder. There was an empty room 311 at the hotel, so I booked it for just Friday under a different name. It had internet. The mall had good deals on disposable phones, so I got 2, just in case. My parents moved to an old farmhouse near Lebanon a few years ago. It was big for just them, but it was my dad's dream. He had a big garden, chickens, and trees with fruit. Jared enjoyed going there. They were happy to let us stay for however long we needed. My dad liked Jared, but called him Jake. He said Jared's name sounded like someone who sells sandwiches. Jared seemed to like being called Jake more than his real name. A few years ago, Dad bought a big trailer and a small Kia to pull it. He used it 3 times and then lost interest. I told Dad to get the trailer ready and packed. I knew the girls would be sad about leaving their friends for the summer. They had 1 more year of high school before college, and they wanted to finish it at a school in Vermont. Natalie didn't want to spend the money, even though they were a year apart. They were in the same class. I didn't know how Jared would feel about it. I'll figure out the school thing later. Right now, I had other problems. At least the kids enjoyed being with my parents. Natalie left early the next morning. She was crying and thanked me again for letting her spend time with her friends. I told the kids to get ready for the trip and pack for the whole summer. The girls were excited, just like I expected. I told them to pick up brochures from Burlington Prep School, and suddenly everything seemed better. They brought all their school clothes, just in case. Surprisingly, Jared seemed excited about the trip. Jenny came up to me and just stood there. "What do you need?" "Jenny, have you packed everything?" "Dad, I'm 17. I'm not a child anymore. Tell me what's going on. I'm not sure I understand what you mean. Do you have problems with Mom? I don't think that's something I want to discuss with you." If something were going on, your mom and I would try to keep it from you. Why don't you finish packing your things? No, Dad, I'm serious. This time it feels different. Lynn and I want to know what's going on. We feel like we have the right to know. I didn't want to talk to her about this, but I knew it would come out sooner or later. All right? I'm not very happy with the relationship between your mother and me right now. Things aren't going well for us. I'm not sure exactly what's wrong, but I know something's not right. Is Mom cheating on you? I remained silent for a long time. I'm not sure, but I think so. Jenny turned around and yelled up the stairs. You were right, Lynn. What does all this mean? I'll let Lynn tell you better. Lynn was coming down the stairs towards Jenny and me. Tell him, Lynn, do I have to do this? Yes, he knows, but you should still tell him. Lynn looked down at her feet. Finally, she spoke. About 4 months ago, I skipped school with a guy from my lab class. We stopped at home so I could buy some CDs. It was a Wednesday, Mom's usual shopping day. I think you were at work in Boston. As we walked down the street, we saw a gold SUV pull up to the driveway. That guy, Floyd, who works with you, got out and Mom let him in. We waited outside for almost 2 hours until he came out. I waited another 10 minutes and went inside. Mom was in the shower and the bed in your room was messy. I left and went back to school before the day ended. When we got home, she cooked dinner. The bed was made and there was a stack of sheets in the dryer. I told Jenny, but she didn't believe me. 30 seconds passed without anyone saying anything. Thank you for telling me, girls. It's something I never wanted to hear, but I'm glad you told me. Jenny noticed a tear in my eye. She grabbed Lynn's hand and they went upstairs without saying another word. Dad showed up just as the locksmith arrived. While they were changing the locks, I threw all of Natalie's clothes, shoes, and personal belongings into 150-liter trash bags. The bags nearly filled the back of my car. After discussing with the girls, I decided to stay at work before heading to the conference. Centrix was a company that started at the local level but rapidly expanded nationwide. Their marketing experts did a great job finding potential areas for expansion, but the company couldn't train people fast enough to manage them, especially in management roles. They tried to persuade me to move to the new office and offered me several different locations, trying to entice me. Natalie refused to move and didn't even want to discuss it. If I stayed where I was, I'd be stuck in the same position forever. Moving would mean I get a better job, more money, and some authority. I went straight to the president's office. Can Mr. Turcotte talk to me for a bit? I think he can make time for you. Just wait a minute. I always liked Mr. Turcotte's secretary, and I think she liked me too. George Turcotte came out of his office and shook my hand. I hope you're here to tell me good news, Steve. Well, yes and no. Helen, bring some coffee to the office and hold my calls for a bit. What can I do for you, Steve? Firstly, I've decided I want to be considered for one of the new management jobs on site where you think I'd be best. That's great news. If you don't have a preference, I have a great position in Anchorage that I'd like you to take. How do you feel about that? Believe it or not, it sounds perfect. Are you okay with the first week of September? I think that will work. I'll personally handle all of that on Monday. What's next? Well, I know this sounds strange, but I would like Floyd Cooper to be sent to work under me. George leaned back in his chair and started chuckling. You found out, didn't you? I don't understand what you mean, George. I couldn't keep a serious expression when I said that. Steve, no one wanted to tell you anything. I didn't like what was going on, but I didn't know what to do about it. If I fired Floyd, I was afraid you'd find out, and I didn't want that to happen. I decided it was best to try to keep it a secret. Unfortunately, Floyd Cooper has a loose tongue. He started bragging about his affair with your wife. His secretary, Tracy, came to me and complained when Floyd started showing everyone photos of him and your wife that he had uploaded to his computer. The legal department is working on something right now, but I've kept them on a short leash, trying to protect you. Now that you know, I can simply fire Floyd. It's damn sight more practical than spending money sending him to Alaska for you to fire him there. Fair enough. I had hoped to cause a bit more damage, but I suppose revenge is a rather poor method of control. I'll agree to whatever you deem fair. George pressed the intercom button. Helen, connect me to Tracy Tolliver. Explaining to Tracy what we were doing, we went down to Floyd's office. Floyd was working in Allentown. Tracy Tolliver was a very attractive woman. She was just under 30 and aging very well. The combination of chestnut hair and blue eyes always captivated me. She stood just a few inches over 150 centimeters, but carried herself like an Amazon. I never understood how Floyd had the best receptionist in the whole building. Later, I found out that she had asked 3 times to be transferred to my office, but my secretary wouldn't budge. "You'll need these." She gave me 4 empty CDs. Look in the pending invoices section and click on Started. Make one for yourself, one for your lawyer, one for our legal team, and one for Floyd's wife. I've got the mailings ready, but I need the name of your lawyer. I was amazed by how well she worked. She knew what she was doing and how to do it right. Seymour Schlamp, his office is on Franklin Street. George and I went into Floyd's office while Tracy finished typing in the final address. There were 20 photos of Floyd and Natalie doing all kinds of things together. They were of poor quality and looked like they were taken from a webcam. It also meant that Floyd probably had a full-length video somewhere. They weren't taken in our bedroom. George tried to be polite about it all, but he couldn't help but stare at my wife. I was a bit dismayed because every guy in the building probably saw what I was looking at now. After checking them all, I simply copied the file onto each of the blank CDs. Tracy poked her head into the room. "Delete the damn file once you're done copying this crap." I handed Tracy the 4 discs. She put each of them in an envelope and gave me one back. "Don't let your kids get a hold of this. I'll send these 3 out Monday morning." I told George about my plans at the hotel. He didn't like that the company was involved, but he agreed with it. There was a work crew in the area on Monday, and he said he'd ask them to come by and remove the cameras I was planning to install. George and I shook hands. I thanked him, and he thanked me. I think it was a good meeting. The trip from Reading to Lancaster took about an hour. After parking in the backyard, I checked in, paid in cash, and got the keys. The first thing I did was change into my work clothes. The maid on the 4th floor was really nice. I showed her my work order, and since no one had checked into the room yet, she let me in. It only took about 20 minutes to install the fake smoke detectors. There were 2 big beds in the room. I positioned the cameras so they could see each bed and parts of the room well. Don't worry, I knew what I was doing. I hoped none of the guests would notice there were 3 smoke detectors in the room. I changed back into my regular clothes and started setting up all my equipment. The pizza delivery guy came about 30 minutes later. By 3 o'clock, everything was ready. Both cameras worked well, and the pictures were clear even in normal room lighting. My laptop was on and connected to the internet. One camera recorded every movement automatically, and I controlled the other one myself. I really liked my job, but I had one problem. I didn't know where Natalie was. I called her on my phone. "Hi, Steve. Isn't caller ID great?" "Hi, Natalie. Just checking if everything's okay. The kids are with my parents, and I'm still at work. Where are you?" "We're still at Katie's. Her husband, Ray, is watching their kids. Katie and I are staying overnight at Melanie Thompson's house. Some other girls from school will be there too. It should be fun." "Sounds like fun. Take some pictures." "In your dreams, creep." "Who's this guy Ray with Katie? Do I know him?" "I think so. It's Ray Wilson. He was on your football team." "Oh, right. I remember Ray." "What does he look like?" "A bit heavier, a bit bolder, and a bit softer. Sounds like regular aging to me." "Okay, Natalie, I'll let you go. Have fun and call if there are any issues. Love you. Love you back. Bye." I remembered well that Ray was a big jerk and unpleasant to deal with. If they were about to leave, it meant they would be here soon. I figured they would use Natalie's car, which suited me just fine. Around that time, there was some activity in the room. Camera number 1 started recording just as it was set up. There was a lot of idle chatter about the trip and other trivial matters. They were both quite big guys. Jared had dark hair and dark eyes, while Martin was a bit balding and looked pale. Both seemed to be in good shape. Bug registered Jared's mobile phone ring. "Hello, this is the race course. How can I help you?" They both seemed happy about it. I wondered if they'd used this before. "We're here, dear, and we're excited to talk." "What do you want to do?" I thought you were talking to Katie. "Okay, we're downstairs in about 2 minutes. We'll see you there." At least they were going to give them food first. I sat there, boiling with anger over all of this. If I hadn't been so engrossed in the mechanics of what I was doing, I probably would have been preparing to stomp someone. I immediately left the room and headed towards the stairs at the end of the corridor. Standing around the building's corner, I could see Natalie and Katie waiting in the lobby. They giggled like a pair of schoolgirls. A minute later, Jared and Martin came out of the elevator. Natalie immediately took Jared's hand and kissed him on the cheek, like a wife kisses her husband. The four of them walked out and got into the black Mercedes. As they drove off, I surveyed the parking lot and spotted the Volvo parked in the back. At least she was trying to behave a bit discreetly. About 5 minutes later, I was loading bags of her clothes and other items into the car. I was sure she would return from the restaurant slightly tipsy and wouldn't notice anything in the car. I left a note on the driver's seat explaining that the locks had been changed at the house and that I was taking the kids on an extended vacation. I headed to Taco Bell and fueled myself for the rest of the night. They were having ribs and I was having a high-quality burrito. Life just isn't fair. I returned to my room and waited for the inevitable. I tried to think of a few more things I could do. I had about an hour until they returned to the room. I knew what would happen when they arrived. What I didn't know was exactly what I was going to do. Well, I mostly figured out that they didn't gather to play canasta. I knew what would happen for the rest of the evening, and I didn't like it. I thought we had a good life with Natalie. I thought she was happy because she never complained and didn't seem unhappy. She told me all sorts of nonsense when Jared was born. She said she was glad we had a boy because every man should have a son. I wondered if she had called Jared's real father and congratulated him right away. Thinking about it made me sad. I regretted all the years I spent with this woman who could cheat on me suddenly and not feel bad about it at all. A woman who could make me raise another man's child and think it was funny. It was hard to feel sorry for her at that moment. I continued preparing everything. Maybe I was too prepared, but it was the only chance I had, and I didn't want to miss anything. They burst into the room, laughing and giggling. Martin brought a bottle of something, and within the first minute, they filled 4 glasses. Katie grabbed 2 pillows from the bed and threw them on the floor. All right, let's begin. The winner gets top marks. At these words, there was an explosion of laughter. How are we going to have a threesome when there are only 2 guys? Natalie picked up on this question. Hey, girls also love it when they're licked. After a long bout of giggles, Katie and Natalie took off their tops, bras, and dropped to their knees in front of the guys. 2 pairs of pants and boxers hit the floor a second later. Both girls had wide smiles on their faces when Katie shouted, "Go ahead." I couldn't believe I was watching my wife do it with such enthusiasm. It was a competition that the 4 of them enjoyed to the fullest. I was not only angry, but also jealous. The cameras were working perfectly. I had to distract myself from the orgy to make sure I captured everything. Since I could control the cameras zoomed manually, I recorded a couple of minutes of excellent sucking. It was almost as good as a regular adult movie. They kept doing it again and again. Then there was a pause in room 411. Jared and Martin were just hanging out with some beers. I grabbed a disposable phone and called Baltimore. "Hello, Mrs. Kramer? This is Walter Perkins from the Medical Equipment Conference in Lancaster. Are you Mr. Jared Kramer's wife?" "Yes, but he's not here right now." "I know. Your husband and Mr. Blank got a special award tonight at the conference. We want to send you pictures from the event by email. Do you have an email address where we can send them?" "Yes, of course. Here it is." "Great. Do you have Martin Blank's wife's email so I can send the pictures to both of you?" "Sure, here it is." "Okay, that's all I need. The pictures will be with you in a few minutes." "Sure." She could follow transmissions through the hotel's Wi-Fi, but it didn't matter to me because I wasn't connected. There was a quiet moment in room 411 as they took a break. "So, Natalie, is your husband taking good care of my son instead of me?" "Of course, silly. It's been 8 years, and this fool still hasn't realized that the child isn't his. Steve lives in his own world. He wouldn't understand even if a letter came in the mail. It would be nice if you occasionally sent a birthday gift or something like that." "Oh yes, that would be cool. All he needs is to see something like that to give him a clue." Katie chimed in. "Damn it, I have 3 snotty kids running around at home, and my idiot isn't the father to any of them. He's so busy chugging beer that he would never understand they're not his." Everyone had a good laugh at poor Ray's expense, and I ended up with a good audio clip. I got tired of all these events, so I decided to put them off until the night. I logged onto the streaming site and chose an unused room. After a few recordings, I had a live video from room 411 streaming to the website. I put a headline on the page, "Natalie and Katie with Jared and Martin." My wife and her friend thought the break was over and started getting rough with the guys again. The internet stream was going well, and over 100 people were watching. It took me about 20 minutes to pack everything for leaving. I left the computer with the live stream running as a goodbye present. By then, over 400 people were watching, and I'm sure some were recording it to share later. I finished setting up and called Ray Wilson. "Hey, Ray, are you sober?" "Yeah. Just a friend. Ray, I want you to listen to something." I played a short audio clip I made with Katie. "Son of a jerk. Where did you get this?" "Ray, she's in room 411. There are 2 big guys there, so if you're planning to go, take a bat or something, otherwise they might hurt you." Ray didn't say anything else, and I heard the phone hang up. I finished loading the GPS when Ray jumped out of the Ford pickup with a short aluminum bat and stormed into the building. I was tired, but I enjoyed the ride back. The mobile home was all set up. I handed Dad a set of keys to the new home. Mom had gone to Lancaster to visit Natalie at her parents' house, while Dad drove some guys to our place and helped move all the furniture and stuff. They had enough space to store things in the shed. Mom thought it would be interesting to hear Natalie's version. My parents had the number of one of the phones they threw away. I kept my cell, but planned to keep it mostly off. Dad will take things back to Centrex on Monday. It was late to set out, but I wanted to be far away when Natalie realized what was happening. We had a van parking spot reserved near Hagerstown, where we could hit the highway nicely in the morning. The girls planned the trip for us. They did a pretty good job. The only thing I did was shorten the distance between stops because gas was killing me. I was glad I brought plenty of cash. We spent 3 days at Disney and were heading to Chattanooga to visit the aquarium. Jenny asked if she could call Mom. "Hi, Mom, it's Jenny." "Yes, just wanted to let you know everything was fine." Yes, I know. We're all having a good time, even Jared. We miss you too. We'll call every couple of days to update you." "All right, tomorrow night, we're going to Orlando. We'll be at Disney for about a week. We have tickets for the park every day." I couldn't believe it. My daughter was helping her mother out. "How awesome is that? We're staying at the Orleans Hotel, right at Disneyland. It's going to be fantastic." "Okay, we'll call you in a few days. Bye." "Jenny, I can't believe you did that." It was really disgusting. I know. Lynn and I thought it would be appropriate. You do realize that your mom is on the phone right now talking about the plane ticket and hotel reservation. We figured she should do that. She still needs a vacation, Lynn interjected. Jared was watching a DVD and enjoying his own company. 2 weeks later, Lynn called her mother. Natalie was very upset because she had been looking for us in Orlando for a whole week. Lynn said that instead, we stopped at Six Flags and tried to change the subject. Lynn and Jenny kept her on the phone for almost 20 minutes, listening to her ramblings. Eventually, Jenny said she was sorry if she misled her and promised to call her back in a couple of days. My little demons giggled for another half hour after hanging up. The next week was restless. We parked at the Smoky Mountains, and the kids were busy while I took care of business. Seymour delivered divorce papers to Natalie. She had no idea I was doing this until he showed up. He said she had a seizure. He explained that she could hire a lawyer to contest the divorce and told her what she was up against. He had photos of her and Floyd, the group in room 411, and DNA test results. Jenny and Lynn were my daughters, but not Jared. Natalie got a lawyer, but she eventually agreed to what Seymour suggested. Seymour went to visit Big Jared at the hospital in Baltimore. Katie's husband did a serious number on Martin. Ray was looking at about 5 years in prison. I asked Seymour to help him out. Both of my wife's lovers stayed in the hospital for over a week, and when they were getting better, they were given divorce papers. They had nowhere to go when they left the hospital. Jared signed a paper giving up all rights to his son, Jared Jr. In addition to broken bones and ribs, Ray literally crushed the genital area with a bat. Doctors didn't have much hope for his recovery. Betty Moore found a buyer for the house. She spent a lot of time convincing Natalie to sign all the papers, but in the end, she wore her out. I didn't need to sign anything or be present at the closing due to the power of attorney I signed. Summer was quickly coming to an end. I had a chance to improve my relationship with the kids. I spent a lot of time talking to Jared. He liked the farm where Mom and Dad lived. I asked him if he would like to stay on the farm full-time, and he jumped at the chance. Dad really liked having him around, and I knew he would be happy to take him in. Seymour filed adoption papers so that my parents would have legal authority to provide for him and take care of him. The only thing Seymour didn't like doing was making Natalie agree to it. Natalie didn't know this, but Dad also officially changed Jared's name to Jake. The girls fell in love with the school in Burlington. The end of summer in Vermont was beautiful. We spent a few days getting them settled, and then Jake and I headed back to Keystone State. I contacted Mr. Turcott and found out that everything was ready for my move to Alaska. Tracy was already on site and had set up a temporary office. That was great news. She had an apartment and a company car waiting for me when I got there. I left the motor home with Dad to sell. 6 months later, everything was sorted out. The divorce was done. The girls did really well in school and got scholarships to James Madison University in Virginia. They were happy and excited to be on their own. They hadn't heard much from Natalie except for a few phone calls. Jake's grades were getting better, and he was really into his new hobby of raising chickens. One day, Natalie came to visit him. She was driving an old Ford car and told Dad she had to sell the Volvo because of the divorce costs. But in the end, I paid for both lawyers. While she was there, Natalie kept calling Jake Jared. Jake corrected her each time and eventually walked away. Natalie kept complaining to Dad about how unfair it was to take away a child's rights. Dad said it was an easy shot, so he ignored it and just left with Jake. Jake's mom never came back to him. She got $11,000 from selling the house. She and Katie decided to celebrate the divorce by going to Las Vegas. But they spent all the money in 4 days. I don't know what Natalie is doing now or where she lives. Maybe she moved to Baltimore. Anyway, I love Alaska. Second story. 7 years relationship or giving a chance to someone new. My boyfriend and I have been together for 7 years, but it's been on and off. He cheated on me a few times. I decided to forgive him, but it's been hard to trust him again. He wants to get married, but I said we should see a counselor first. He agreed, but he hasn't made any effort to find one. When I found some potential counselors covered by his insurance, he got annoyed and said therapists are useless. He thinks we should go to concerts or travel instead. I told him I have serious PTSD from our last breakup. I moved in with him after he proposed, but then he changed his mind and asked me to move out. I also found out he was texting another girl he had been with when we were broken up. I'm scared to move in with him and marry him now. I blocked him a month and a half ago because he hasn't done anything to find a counselor. He calls me from unknown numbers, begging me to come back, saying he doesn't have money for a therapist, but he'll get one. I told him it's only $55 per session with his insurance, and he spends that much on eating out every week. I even said I'd help pay for it. He tells me he loves me and begs me not to leave him. It's hard for me to leave because we've been together for so long, and I'm attached to him. There's a guy I met online who lives far away. Our values and future goals align. We both want to have a family. He comes from a stable family and is drama-free. He's religious, which is something I want to be more of. He's really interested in me, and even though I like it, I'm not sure if I should end things with my boyfriend and give this new guy a chance. I know I shouldn't rush, but he seems special. The last time I met someone like him was 10 years ago, and I regretted not giving that person a chance. Thanks for watching. Please like this video and don't forget to subscribe.